Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Beis, starting with Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph, 4 lines from the bottom. The Gemara is discussing certain types of lechem. If a lechem is cooked on a frying pan, is that considered to be bread? It's a machlokes Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish says that is not considered to be bread. It's not lechem. Since it's cooked on a frying pan, it's considered to be cooking and not baking. Granted, we're talking about a very slight layer of oil, but nonetheless it's called cooking and not baking. Rabbi Yochanan argues and says even that's called lechem. And the nafkamina, at least one nafkamina would be whether it's chayiv in challah or not. Another nafkamina would be if you could use it ultimately for matzah. Al Kopani, the Gemara had asked from a brisa against Reish Lakish and said that we see from a brisa that when one does cook on a maise ilfis, on a frying pan, is not chayiv in challah. On that, Reish Lakish explained that's because there's a distinction. If it was first heated up, and then you go ahead and put the dough on the frying pan, then that itself would be chayiv in challah. In other words, because that would be doimet to an oven like baking. It's only if it was first put on, and then it was heated up. That's when it's going to be potter. The Gemara now asks the following. Omar Yehuda Mashmuel. Toshma first. Toshma. Yoitzin b'matzah hina. The Brisa says one is yoitzin with matzah that's not completely baked. Uve matzah hasui be'ilfas. And matzah that is made on a frying pan. So here we clearly have a kasha on Reish Lakish. Here it seems that you are, yes, going to be able to fulfill your mitzvah of matzah, whereby it's considered to be lechem. Answers the Gemara, here also Rav Lakish would answer, we're talking about where it's first heated up, and then it was put on to the frying pan, just like a tanur, an oven. The way the tanur, the oven works, it's first heated up, and then you stick the dough on the walls of the oven. Ask the Gemara on the Reisha, the Brisa, that we just quoted, my matzah hina. What does it mean that you fulfill your mitzvah with matzah that is matzah hina, that's not completely baked? What is the degree that's not completely baked that you can still fulfill your mitzvah of matzah? Rav Yehuda Mashmuel, kol sheporsa ve'ein chutin nimshochin heimena. When you would break it, and the chutin, the strands, the chutin would not then be drawn after it, that means it's enough baked to be considered to be matzah. Omar Rove adds v'chein lachmei toida, and similarly this would be true with the lechem of the korban toida. Ask the Gemara Pshita, why would we think otherwise? Hacha lechem kasiv v'hacha lechem kasiv. In both places, the word lechem is used, and therefore, if it's defined as lechem gabe matzah, then the amount of baking is also considered to be lechem gabe korban toida. So what is Rava coming to add? Says the Gemara to explain Ma'ud Desem, you might think to say, Hoyel v'ksiv v'hikriv mimenu echad mikol korban. Since it's written in the pasuk that he will bring one of the korban, that means to say of the 40 chalois of the korban toida, so it's 4 different types, 10 of each type. So one is to give one the Bible is supposed to give one of each type to the kohen. So it says over here, echad mikol korban. From here the Gemara makes a drasha. Echad means that it's complete. Shaloi yitel porus. It should not be taken when it's broken. Vehacha, but here, kiman de prisa damya. Here, you might say, since it's not completely baked, granted, we said the strands are not going to be pulled when you were then to break it, but it's not considered to be complete. It doesn't have the same completion that might be necessary for the korban toida. Kamash malan, it is sufficient, says Rava, as long as it's baked to this extent where you could break it, and it's a clean break. It doesn't make the strands pull, then it's considered to be good enough also for the korban toida. Meisve, the Gemara now asks, from a brisa, ultimately on Rabbi Yochanan's opinion, that a meiser ilfas, he says, will be chayiv and challah. Here the Gemara brings the brisa. Ha-mi'isa beishamai poitim. Mi'isa is a certain type that is used, which is scalded. Ubeis Hillel mechayvin. Here it says that Beis Shammai is poiter from challah, and Beis Hillel will be mechayvin. Hichlita, again, a type of scalding. The Gemara will distinguish between the two. Beis Shammai mechayvin, Beis Hillel poiter. Here it's the opposite. Beis Shammai says chayiv, and Beis Hillel says poiter. Now ask the Brisa, Ezu hami'isa ve'ezu hachlita. What do these two different types of scaldings? Depends on the order. Says the Brisa, hami'isa is kemach she'al gabe mugloshin. When you pour the kemach on top of the boiling water, that's called mi'isa. Hichlita mugloshin she'al gabe kemach. Whereas hichlita is the opposite. You pour the boiling water onto the kemach. Hichlita hami'isa. Right, he chliz the mugloshin shagabe kemach. So Rabbi Yishmael, the Brisa continues, Rabbi Yosi oimer mishum aviv. He says the name of Rabbi Yosi, his father, ze veze liptur. He says that both mi'isa and hechlita, his shita is that they're both going to be potter from challah. V'amri le ze veze lichiyuv. There's another version that says in the Rabbi Yosi that both Mi'isa and Hechlita is going to be chayiv in challah. V'chachamim say a fifth opinion. Echad ze ve'echad ze asoim be'ilfas potur betanur chayiv. If it's made in a frying pan, it will be potur from challah. If it's made in a tanur, it will be chayiv in challah. So it comes out we have 5 different shitas. We have the shita of Beis Hillel that says Mi'isa is chayiv. The shita of Beis Shammai says Hichlita is chayiv. The shita of Rabbi Yosi, depending on which version, if the first shita says that they're both potter, the second version is they're both chayiv. And the last shita of the Chachamim, that say it depends. If it's made in an ilfis, then made in a frying pan, then the Chachamim say that it's going to be potter. If it's made in a tanur, in an oven, it's going to be chayiv. The Gemara first works out this brisa before it asks this question on Rabbi Yochanan. V'tanakama ma'ishna hami'isa u'ma'ishna hichlita. What, according to Tanakama, when he brings the opinion of Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, what is the distinction in the fact that it's first pouring boiling water or first the flour? What does it make a difference? Omar v'Yehuda, Omar Shmuel, v'chein Omar v'Yehuda, v'tem Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, k'machloikes bezu. Indeed, there is no difference. And therefore, the first part of the Tanakhama that says that Beis Hillel will be mechayvin, that would be both mi'isa as well as hichlita. And therefore, that would be the same. There would be a distinction. According to him, then, Beis Shammai would say they're both potter. Ask more v'tavra, but that would be an internal contradiction because, after all, we stated Mi'isa is chayiv according to Beis Hillel, and Hichlita is potter according to Beis Hillel. Mi'isa is going to be potter according to Beis Shammai, and Hichlita is going to be chayiv according to Beis Shammai. Answers the Gemara, Misha Shona Zu, Lo Shona Zu, Enochanami. There are 2 different Tanoim, and therefore, again, there's no distinction between Hichlita and Mi'isa. If you hold, according to the first version, Mi'isa that Beis Hillel says is chayiv, you will also say Hichlita is chayiv. If you go to the second version that says Beis Shammai says Hichlita is chayiv, then he is the one who's saying that the Hichlita is chayiv and Mi'isa is chayiv. Depending on the version, that's what he holds. Whether it's Beis Hillel that says it's chayiv or it's Beis Shammai that says it is chayiv. Al Kopain, the Gemara now brings back its question from this brisa, the reason why I brought it in the first place. Ketani mihas, it teaches in this brisa, nevertheless, v'chachamim oimim echad zeh ve'echad zeh. Be'ilfas potter b'tanur chayiv. Here it states if it was put into an ilfas, it will be potter. In a frying pan, it's potter. Only in a tanur, in an oven, is it chayiv. To Yuf to Rabbi Yehuda, to Rabbi Yochanan. Clearly, we have a refutation against Rabbi Yochanan because he says that if it's made in a frying pan, it would be chayiv. The Brisa says clearly otherwise. Omar loch Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan will answer. Tanoihi. It's a machloikis tanoim, whether that which is baked in an ilfas is considered to be cooking, and therefore it's going to be potter, or it's going to be chayiv. The Tanya, yochol yehe mi'isa v'chaluto chayavim b'chala. The Brisa says in the Tanakhama, I might think that indeed, if you take mi'isa or chaluto, it's going to be chayiv in chala, talmud loymar lechem. Therefore it teaches lechem that neither chaluta or mi'isa is going to be considered to be lechem. Rabbi Yehuda Omer ein lechem elo hafui betanor. Lechem is only considered that which is baked in an oven. Ask the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda hainu tanakama, l'chara, it's the same shita. They both say it's not lechem. So what is the machlokes? Elo, this is how Rabbi Yochanan would explain this brayso. Elo lav maise ilfis ika benayu. Is it not that they're arguing about whether it was made in a frying pan? Tanakama sover maise ilfis chayovin. Rabbi Yehuda sover maise ilfis pturim. And that's good for the machlokes. The Tanakama says, why is it going to be chayiv? Because maise ilfis is chayiv. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it has to be dafka in an oven, and therefore it is potter. Says the Gemara, loy, you don't have to explain the brayso in this way. The kuli alma maise ilfis pturim. Really, everybody would say, including the Tanakama, that a maise ilfis would also be potter in chalin. So what's the machlokes in the Tanakama, Rabbi Yehuda? The hocha kigon shechazar ve'of oy betanor kamifli. It was first made in an ilfas and then it was put into a tanor. Is that considered to be now baked or not? That's the machlokes. The Tanakama sover kivin shechazar ve'of oy betanor lechem karin bake. That's considered to be lechem because ultimately it was baked in an oven. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda sover ein lechem ela afui betanor miikaro. It's only going to be lechem if it's initially baked in a tanor. That means once in a oven, and that's it. That's considered to be lechem. Since it was not only baked in a tanor, it was also made in an ilfas and then put in a tanor, it's not considered to be lechem, and therefore it'd be potter from challah. My time, Mother Rabbi Yehuda. What's the reason why Rabbi Yehuda says that it's required to be solely baked in a tanor? It says in the pasuk, this is a pasuk from Parshas B'chukoisai in the brachos and klolos. Amongst the klolos it states, "Va'afui eser noshim lachmechem betanor echad." There'll be 10 women that will bake the bread, your bread, in one tanor. There'll be such little amount of wood to bake bread in an oven that 10 women will have to use the same tanor. So it says over here, the fact that it adds the word lachmechem, which seems to be superfluous, teaches me that the lachmechem, your bread, has to be dafka in one tanor. Lechem hafui betanor echad kari lechem. Only that bread which is baked only in one oven is considered to be bread. However, she'ein hafui betanor echad en kari lechem, that's not considered to be bread. That's the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. Yosef Rabbi v'Rav Yosef acharei Rabbi Zera. They were both sitting behind Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Zera, Kamed Ula, and Rabbi Zera was sitting before Rabbi Ula. Omar le Rabbi Zera. Rabbi said to Rabbi Zera, who's right before Ula, Ula was right before him. Boy mine me Ula, asked from Ula the following question. Hidbik mi bifnim v'hir tiach mi bachutz mahu. If you stick the dough inside and then you light and your matiach outside, what is the din? Now, if you learn over here, we're talking about a maise ilfis, a frying pan. So lechora, like the Gemara is going to say, that seems to be obvious. So Tosfos says over here, we're talking about actually a tanor. Even though the tanor normally is heated up and then you put the dough on the wall of the tanor, what happens if it's the opposite direction? You first put the dough on the walls of the tanor and then you heat it up. Is that going to be considered like a maise ilfas or not? Omar le, he says, my aimale, what should I ask him? The iaminale, if I asked him, Omar li, he will say to me, Hai nihu maise ilfas. This is the same as a maise ilfas, and therefore it's the same machlokes between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish would say that it's not considered to be chayiv and chala, and Reish Lakish said, Rabbi Yochanan would say it would be. Omar Rav Yosef Rab Zeira, boy mine me Ula, ask Ula the following question. Hidbik mi bifnim. If you take the dough and you put it on the frying pan, then instead of the classical way of lighting up the frying pan from beneath, you actually put the fire from above, then what is the din? Omar le, my emale, what shall I ask him? If I ask him such a question, he will answer me, Roiv anim oisin ken. The majority of poor people, that's how they fry their things. When they do things on a frying pan, they cook it in such a way where they put the fire above. and therefore the same thing as a Maaseh Ilfas, whereby it's the same machlokes between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish again would maintain a Maaseh Ilfas is going to be potter from Chala, whereas Rabbi Yochanan would say it's Chayiv in Chala.